Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of HRD 600. I hope you're faring well in this, well, I can't say it's a hurricane, but we're having a tropical storm, and it's more like a windstorm here in Topsom, Maine. A little rain, but fortunately we have not lost power yet. So hope you're faring as well as we are so far in Topsom. So let's get right to the materials. Today is Saturday, September 16th. Week 4 starts on Monday, September 18th, and I'll get right to week number 4. Week number 4, we continue, and we're actually looking at the early history of adult education, and I think there's some fascinating topics that we're going to be covering this week, including this whole topic of a lyceum in Chautauqua, which are forms of adult education that started quite a few years ago, late 1800s. And I'll show you the materials that I put online for this week. There's a lot of them, but you can scan, you can look at them very quickly and get an idea of what we're talking about this week. So let me get right to the materials. In week number 3, I did want to mention to everybody we have the Liberal Education Discussion Forum. If you haven't done that yet, please jump online. This is a typical weekly discussion. I have not assessed those all yet. There's quite a few people that I'm still waiting on. So I will get to that, and I will have those graded with comments by Sunday, probably Monday at the very latest. So that's week number 3. Now, week number 4 is the last week in module 4. So as I say in here, week number 4, the first thing I'd like you to do, and you're probably doing it now, you're taking a look at the video, this will say fall 2023 video when you are looking at the video. The historical examples. This is really the where and why and what I would like you to do this week. So let me click on this and give you an idea of what's involved. Okay, historical examples. What are some examples? And you may have heard of things like lyceums. I know there's one environmental group in the state of Maine, actually it's a land trust, that instituted a weekly lyceum. And I've always thought of lyceums as almost a perfect form of adult education. A group of people come together. They have maybe a speaker for the week, a topic of the week. The group decides what the topic is going to be prior to getting together. And they have the speaker, then they discuss it. So it's a very democratic form of education, adult education in particular. And I mention this only not because I'm embarrassed about it, but I've been to many 12-step AA meetings, and I think the same thing happens with a lyceum that probably happens in many recovery settings. People come together. They're looking to learn. There could be out of desperation. It could be out of many reasons why they come together. But one person is the lead person. They talk about what they're going to talk about. And then for the next 45 minutes or however long it might be, people sit around and talk about basically that topic. That is a very current adult education format. I mean, it's in recovery, but I've been involved with that community for over 30 years. So I've marveled at how well it works under the circumstances of really not having a strict format. So we continue, and I'm not saying that's in the same category of a lyceum, but there's similarities. Chautauqua is very similar. It started in New York State, and let me just get to the materials. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. In this week, I'd like you to read these 2 articles, and they're in electronic reserves. If you can't find those, please let me know, and I can help you locate those. Consider many forms. So there's various briefs in here. But I talk about Chautauqua, and I did just this morning. I was having trouble with previous classes finding a good video on that explains what this is. This is a PBS video. It's currently available. I don't know how long it will be, but it's a good overview of where this movement came from and what the purposes were. And I think you might find that, you dig into the history of adult education, and at the root of it was, way back, many years ago, the root and the purpose of helping, just say, adults learn how to read was so that they could study the Bible. At least this is the case in the United States. And I will say beyond in other parts of the world. So take a look at the video. It's 18 minutes. I think it's well worth your while to view that video. It just gives you some historical context. And it's PBS, it's done very well. So take a look at that. And, learning comes from formal, informal, and non-formal settings. So formal generally is looking at something. You're being a graduate student, you are involved with formal education. Informal learning usually takes place, personal interest, and does not involve formal assessments. So it could be, as I say in here, visiting museum or a natural park. Non-formal learning may happen independently, watching YouTube, TED Talks, and I will say for something like that, when you're looking at this video, that to me is, yes, you're part of formal education, but that's a form of independent or non-formal learning that, just say you were interested in this, you were watching the PBS documentary on that subject. So I'd like you to read these briefs. Once again, if they all work, I checked them all this morning, they all work, but if you find out that they don't work on your computer, please let me know. And then we have a discussion forum, and review the field study guidelines in the syllabus. Here's the guidelines again. Continue reading Lindeman's book, Cameron's book, and then continue with the learning journal. So let me fast forward here to the next screen. So there's 2 discussion forums I'd like you to do this week. The field study discussion. This really is your opportunity to briefly express kind of what you're interested in doing. Some of the topics. I've received a couple emails from people saying, hey, what do you think of this field study? And it could be your field study, could be a local adult education center. And when I took this course many years ago, that was just it. I was not all that knowledgeable with all of the adult ed programs in the state, so I did my field study on Portland adult education, and I was most interested in how do they conduct so many different programs for so many different populations and from people around the world. At the time, there were about 70 different languages spoken in Portland High School, Portland, Maine High School, and I was most interested in how does the Portland education, Portland Ed program, how do they attract, support, and help new Mainers. And so that's the first field study discussion, or that's the first discussion post. The second one is historical examples of adult education, and how do these historical examples inform our notions of adult education or adult learning today. So that is it. That's the nuts and the bolts. If you have any questions on the weekly materials, please let me know. I'm here to help. And once again, I'll have the discussion post from week number 3, some comments, and that graded. It's a 1-point grade. I'll have that done Sunday, probably Monday at the very latest. So I hope you have a good week. Hope you make it through the weekend without losing power, and I will see everybody online. Bye.